Hello and welcome everybody. Today I want to talk to you about my second currency strategy of the league, namely Breach Harbinger, and I've left the link to the Atlas passive tree in the description below. This strategy uses a gilded breach and Harbinger scarab, 2 minor fragments, 3 additional Harbingers as map mod, Eater of World influence, and the following 4 compasses. 2 additional breaches belong to Chayula, Harbinger drop additional shards, and a Uul compass with our choice of map being dunes. The main idea is to boss rush to eliminate boss altars, followed by clearing the map for useful altars, and finally doing the breaches and the Harbingers. As I mentioned before, the influence of choice is Eater of Worlds, which we're using to boost loot via increased quantity, rarity, and duplication mods. You also want to lock in altars that enable valuable drops from Eldritch monsters, including Divine, Exalted, and Veiled Chaos Orbs, Polished and Gilded Scarabs, Grand Eldritch Icons, and Divination cards that yield level gems or other divination cards. Breach is mostly about opening breach hands and killing the bosses. In addition to that, there's a large amount of rare monsters spawning that drop additional splinters, and on occasion scarabs, maps, currency, or uniques. You should prioritize the large breach hands because they give you larger quantities of splinters and can also spawn bosses. I usually start out in the center and later circle around the edges or charge right through if there's a part of the breach that I haven't covered just yet. Chayula breaches also require a decent amount of chaos resistance, whereas Uul-Netol breaches require corrupted blood immunity, so keep that in mind if you want to run them instead. The Harbingers should optimally be done while you're opening breaches to save time. This does make the strategy more dangerous though, so if you're struggling with clearing enemies fast enough, you can do the breaches and the Harbingers separately. And last but not least, there is the Immortal Syndicate. Now this won't be an in-depth guide, so if you're completely new to the mechanic, I recommend you watch a more detailed guide for the mechanic. In general, we want 4 members in intervention, preferably Haku and Elrion, because their scarabs are worth the most to the point where you want to reroll all other winged scarabs into Reliquary, Divination, or Ambush using the Harvest Craft. For the research safe house, we want Gravicius for Divination rerolls, Janus for Expedition reroll currency, and Ashling and Voragy for their services. Hillock should optimally be in Transportation for his services as well. The Mastermind itself drops 3 relevant items that you can sell. The Unique Flask, as long as it's unveiled. The Helmet and the Staff, as long as it has a high roll on the mod scaling. While you're collecting the loot, you can start selling the services on TFT. If you're not a member already, I've left a link to the Discord server in the description below. And you can get started by following the instructions on the server itself. Alternatively, you can ignore Ashling and Hillock entirely and run the Syndicate without selling any services at all. You can still make use of Voragy in research by using his crafting bench to turn the sockets of specific items wide. Noteworthy mentions are the Triad Grip and, more importantly, the Crown of the Tyrant. One last thing in regards to the Immortal Syndicate, I heavily recommend a minimalist approach, meaning getting Ashling into research and 4 the members into intervention and level them to rank 3 and then kill the mastermind. Min-maxing all the members is going to diminish your profits, not increase them. For example, in this cycle I would like Leo to be rank 3, but this would probably take me another couple of maps. This is because you only encounter transportation and fortification in half of the maps, and the Immortal Syndicate becomes less dynamic as you progress in general. So we run it as is instead, and use those maps to progress the next cycle. And now for the interesting part, the profit breakdown. I ran 23 maps, the respective Immortal Syndicate safe houses, and 2 masterminds, which took me 3 hours and 38 minutes, and this is the loot I ended up with. The vast majority of our profits are coming from Chayula Breachstones, raw divines from Immortal Syndicate services, and currency from Harbingers. In addition to that, we also found a lot of maps, some divination cards, and scarabs, with the winged scarabs from the mastermind being the most important. There were two major drops that didn't end up including due to the rarity of the drop, namely this Einhaar Memory and a Flawless Chayula Breachstone that are worth 3 and 7 div respectively. The prices for Breachstones, Immortal Syndicate services, and fracturing shards are increasing if anything, so this strategy should remain functional for the remainder of the league. At 22.3 divs per hour, it's pretty decent for a non-magic find strategy, especially considering that this isn't even utilizing the juice from the league mechanic. Overall, this strategy is somewhat demanding in terms of offensive power, so your build needs to be fast and have high clear speed to run this strategy efficiently. If the prices for the Chayula Breachstones drop too much, the prices for the Chayula Compasses increase too much, or you just have too much backlog, you can simply switch over to Uul-Netol by using the appropriate Breach Compass and reallocate the points from Tortured Dreams to Freed from Flesh. You can also run through the Wildwood to gather some wisps and increase loot further. This does make the maps pretty tough though, so I would advise caution if your build is on the lower end of investment. And that's pretty much it for this strategy. If you have any questions or suggestions, you can leave them in the comments. I try to get to them as soon as I can. If you want to support my work or connect with me and my community, you can check out my socials including Twitch, Discord and Patreon on my channel page on the description of this video. I hope you liked it, and I'm going to leave you with the remainder of this map. Until next time.
You killed me! No! Don't want to die! You bastard! Bye bye! You kill so good!
Look, the question now, Exile,